What is going on, Michigan fans? It's Clayton Sayfie here with the Wolverine.com, here with 5 takeaways from Michigan's 31-7 win over Rutgers to open the Big Ten season. Make sure to like this video if you hope Michigan wins a third straight Big Ten championship. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, and head to the Wolverine.com for all of your Michigan football, basketball, and recruiting coverage. $1 gets you an entire month of premium access, your first month for just $1. So get on our message board, get all of our content over at thewolverine.com. All right, let's hop into it. And we kind of have to start with the biggest play of the game. Mikey Sainer still comes up with a 71-yard pick six. And it was just an absolutely pivotal moment in this game. Rutgers is faced with 4th and 2 on the Michigan 27-yard line, down 17-7. Greg Schiano decides to go for it instead of kicking a field goal and making it a one-score game. They throw a screen pass over to the left. Will Johnson's right there. Junior Colson's flowing over. Mike Sainer still comes in. Deflected ball, is able to grab it. Junior Colson goes flipping over the top of him and slamming down to the turf. But Mike Sainer still, for a second, was the only guy in the building that knew he had the ball. He's racing the other way. He gets a couple blocks. Kenneth Grant, credit to him for getting way down the field and blocking. And he goes all the way, the former wide receiver, for the touchdown. Suddenly it's 24-7. And that was basically ball game. It was late third quarter. Michigan had chewed 8 minutes off the clock in its first possession of the third quarter. And that was about all she wrote. So Mikey Sainer still, who was responsible in part for the big play, the 69-yard touchdown on the third play from scrimmage, which allowed Rutgers to go up 7-0. That was his guy. Rod Moore also whiffs on a tackle there, but he makes up for it, more than makes up for it, with a pick six. And he has 2 interceptions on the year now. He continues to play really, really well. Did some other good things in this game, and we'll talk more about the defense here with takeaway number 2. And that's just how this defense responded after that first play. 69 yards, a slant over the middle on third down. They were about to get off the field and force a 3-and-out, but you have those lapses like we talked about with Rod Moore and Mikey Sainer still. And then they respond by really shutting Rutgers down for the rest of the game, minus a few plays here and there. The defense held Rutgers to only 188 yards after that first play. I thought the run wall, as Jim Harbaugh calls it, was fantastic. They only allow 77 yards rushing on 23 attempts. And if you remember, Rutgers coming into this game was running the ball extremely well against worse opponents, but still some okay competition in the grand scheme of things, maybe compared to Michigan's schedule as well. Kyle Manage, their running back, was the reigning Big Ten offensive player of the week. He shut down to just 27 yards on 11 carries, 2.5 yards per carry. Michigan does a great job there. They made Gavin Wimsatt uncomfortable, more so that they put him in positions where he had to throw the football. He was 11 for 21 for 180 yards, 1 touchdown, and the 1 interception, as we talked about. But they were putting him in a lot of third down situations after stopping the run game. I didn't think Michigan got enough pressure on Rutgers, and that's something that they need to do a better job of. Second game this year with no sacks for the Wolverines. They did pressure him, according to Pro Football Focus, on 8 of his 23 dropbacks. That's 34.8%. Not a terrible number, but when you watch the game, it just didn't feel like there was enough heat on him. And that's something that they continue to need to improve on. Jesse Minter has talked about it. They don't want to have to bring extra guys a lot of the time, and they've had to do that early on this season, or at least they have done that early on this year. And I think he knows at this point they kind of need to, maybe when they're playing some better competition. But we'll see how that improves for the Wolverines. But no sacks. Sometimes sacks are overrated. It's also not meaningless either. It's not a meaningless stat that they're important to get. So something to watch going forward. But Michigan's defense really stepped up after allowing the big play early on. Third takeaway is the offensive performance, still leaving some meat on the bone. I mean, they fizzled out on a couple drives. They went 3-and-out to start the game, and you have to credit the offense for bouncing back from that. They then go on and have a 94-yard scoring drive, showing a lot of creativity, a fake reverse flea flicker to a wide-open Colston Loveland. Blake Corum punches it in on the next play. J.J. McCarthy, who we'll talk about in a second, did a good job leading that drive. Donovan Edwards had a big play through the air on that one, and Blake Corum continues to be very, very good. Michigan hits 200 yards rushing for the first time this year, 201 in this game. They had 214 passing for a total of 415 yards. Blake Corum, 21 carries, 97 yards. The 2 touchdowns, and man, where would they be without Blake Corum if he hadn't come back last year? I know other guys would have stepped up. The configuration of this offense would have been a little bit different, but Blake Corum has been so key for the Wolverines early on this season. 4.6 yards per carry for him, but he was better than what that number shows. And sometimes it's going to be like that. Jim Harbaugh called this a meat grinder of a game. Jack Harbaugh in the back of the press conference room was saying the same thing, and they said Bo Schembechler would have been proud of the way Michigan won against a team that wants to play physical, wants to play similar to Michigan. And the Wolverines did a good job with 40 carries, 201 yards, averaging 5 yards per attempt, 5.5 if you adjust for sacks. They had a couple of those, a second and third allowed for the Wolverines this season, which you got to clean up as well. So meat on the bone, couple field goal attempts, like we said, fizzling out after getting past midfield, but they did score on, let's see, they at least attempt a field goal in coming off a game where he had 3 interceptions, 4 total turnovers. You at least attempt a field goal or score a touchdown on 5 straight possessions. The last possession, you end by running out the clock there, but the first one with a punt. So still, all in all, pretty solid, but it was nice that the defense helped out with the pick 6. And not many possessions in this game, not many plays in this game. You're seeing with the clock rule seems to be more and more of a, really of a theme here in college football. Have to touch on the offensive line as well. They did a little bit of a rotation at tackle as expected. They started with the same guys, Carson Barnhart on the left side, Miles Hinton on the right side. Then they brought in Ladarius Henderson at left tackle, moved Barnhart over to right tackle. They then put the initial 5 back out there. And then they ended the game with Ladarius Henderson on the left, Carson Barnhart on the right, Miles Hinton out of the game. I thought he struggled a little bit, especially in pass protection. He was responsible for a 3rd down sack allowed, where then Michigan had to attempt a field goal. They get the delay game, which was questionable. Looked like there was still a second left on the play clock. And then James Turner misses the field goal after getting backed up 5 yards due to the delay game. So not all on Miles Hinton right there, but it's crucial when you're allowing sacks on 3rd downs there. So they're still shuffling with that offensive line. Jim Harbaugh did not really want to touch on that much after the game, and we'll talk about how happy he was with his team's win in just a second, but have to mention that with the offensive line. Takeaway number 4, J.J. McCarthy does have a bounce-back game. I mean, I thought J.J. started a little bit slow, and as we talked about with the offense going 3 and out on the first drive, but he, all in all, 15 of 21 through the air, 214 yards, 1 touchdown on a slot fade to Samaj Morgan, and shout out to Samaj Morgan for the play he made, the adjustment he made on the ball. He also had a 12-yard catch and run earlier on in the game. So that freshman really stepping up for Michigan. But what I really wanted to talk about with JJ is the element he adds with his legs when they give him some of those options to pull the ball on design runs, to scramble a little bit. He had 7 carries for 51 yards. That's the 3rd most amount of yards he's had in a game during his career, trailing Penn State last year and TCU in the Fiesta Bowl on New Year's Eve. But he averages 7.3 yards per carry. And Blake Corum said, man, my job in those situations is to get tackled, make sure you try to clog up the defense. And they're already all gunning for him or Donovan Edwards or Kalel Mullings or whoever it is on those plays, especially Blake Corum. And JJ's able to run free. We saw him rush for 4 first downs in this game. We saw him pick up a 4th and 1 early on in the 3rd quarter when Michigan rolls the dice on its own side of the 50. Jim Harbaugh wants to keep the momentum going. JJ pulls it for 9 yards, gets out of bounds, which was good as well. And then a 3rd and 5 later on that quarter where JJ picks up with getting just enough for the first down. So that's an element we're probably going to see of JJ McCarthy's game a little bit more when the games get tougher, when they get tighter. And I think that's a big benefit for the Michigan football offense as another element. Takeaway number 5, finally, Jim Harbaugh makes his return after his 3-game university-imposed suspension. And I recommend to anybody to go to Michigan football social media, watch the post-game locker room. They sing the victors and how fired up Jim Harbaugh was about this win. He said he really wanted this win, but he felt like his assistant coaches, the staff, and the players wanted it even more. And they talked about it. There was going to be more juice this week with Jim Harbaugh back. The guys could kind of feel that during practice throughout the week. And then we saw it in the game and after the game with how happy these guys were. But Jim Harbaugh, said he was not where he was supposed to be the first 3 weeks. He was watching one game on a laptop. He was watching the other game at Sharon Moore's house. He watched one game after mowing the front yard and then mowing the backyard after the game at his own house. He went to McDonald's at halftime. That's just not where Jim Harbaugh is supposed to be on game day. It was everybody back in their places. And, I thought there are obviously a couple game management things that you could go through, but all in all, pretty smooth for Michigan. And to just have your general back, now you're going on the road for 2 games, I thought was really, really big for this Michigan team. And you could just tell how much fun he had in this game. And as Blake Corum said, cool guy Jim is going to have a great rest of the day. He said that on Saturday, and Jim Harbaugh said, hey, I only have 6 hours to enjoy this. Then we move on to Nebraska. We're sitting here on Sunday morning, so they have already moved on to the Cornhuskers in 2 straight road games at Nebraska, at Minnesota. For coverage of both of those games and everything in between and everything on Michigan football, basketball, and recruiting, head to thewolverine.com. $1 for your first month of premium access over there. Like this video if you're excited about Michigan's victory and path ahead as they try to defend their Big Ten championship. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see everyone next time.